Welcome to SwitchCorner, my name is Alex. Today we're going to be taking a look at LEGO Bricktales on the Nintendo Switch, a puzzle adventure game that finally gives me a long-wanted LEGO feature, and that is the ability to get creative and build in-game. But how does that actually translate to gameplay? Well, that's what I'm here to find out, so hit subscribe, join us here for reviews and deals daily, and let's get started. Story then, and opening the game we are invited by our grandfather to his theme park. It sounds fun, I know, but in fact on arrival it turns out he's pretty much lost interest in his business and the place it's in disarray. You're going to be helping him out though rebuild. Before you know it then though, you're introduced to what is a robot buddy. He has returned. He has been off with aliens, it seems, after an experiment that went wrong. Your grandfather is an inventor, you know, very much mad scientist in training. So now anyway, the overall goal, we must return the park to its once great state because the city, the mayor, not all that happy with you and threatening closure. What this means is we're going to be leveraging a machine your grandfather has built. The problem though, it lacks power. Our robot buddy has the solution though. He learned about happiness from his time exploring with aliens, and now you'll be teleporting to different locations and gathering the power of happiness by helping folks out. I do realise I'm reading this out loud, how crazy it all sounds, and honestly, it really is. But it definitely works in the LEGO set universe. It has some humour as well, some feel-good moments, and there's for sure some messages, but it's never heavy-handed. So gameplay, and we have an adventure exploration game set in at diorama like LEGO locations. You'll be solving puzzles throughout as well, and they are for the majority centered around building required items from LEGO. Just occasionally we do get an environmental based puzzle, but these are more designed to break up the gameplay and the experience. The exploration then is easy. We have movement and an interact button. This can be everything from selecting a build challenge in the world to finding collectibles to talking to the locals. As we do progress as well, we will also get access to 5 special abilities. Some early examples: a water cannon, electricity, and a ground pound. All of them work fine. They have their places in this world, so think the ground pound will remove obstacles in your way. We can use these on a consistent basis throughout the adventure as well once we inherit the ability to do so, but do be warned, dungeons, or let's call them main challenge rooms, they will restrict usage to dial up the difficulty. Location wise as well, then it definitely mixes up the action with everything from jungles to cities invaded by aliens to the medieval times. Definitely a nice selection for our exploration. Once we do then succeed in clearing all story missions as well at a given location, we'll be returning to our grandpa and the theme park with that happiness crystal. We'll basically want to reconstruct and reactivate one of the rides. Now here we do not get full reign over the build of let's say a roller coaster, but we will design, let's say, the cars. Here you can be as creative or simplistic as you want to be. There's even then a sandbox mode, build mode throughout. It's not unlimited, but it adds in a ton of extra pieces, so you can always face the same challenge but in a different way. The building then is what many will be looking towards, and while you are often working within the game's constraints, I really enjoyed it. From simple statue recreations that require you follow a blueprint, to the freedom of, let's say, building a car, a helicopter, and a drone. It's got a good balance between game-specific challenges and then the freedom we've come to know of LEGO and how creative you can get. The building though, it's simple, a drag and drop formula in control. Select the piece required, position it and place it, though it will begin to add new mechanics such as adjusting the height, maybe the rotation, even, you know, specific objectives like you must have, well, obviously an engine on a car. It works well enough though. I will say it can be a little finicky at points. It's using what is an auto lock system of sorts. It can get a bit temperamental, which for me led to some frustration. It's clear it would have been best controlled with a mouse in hand. To combat this as well, one thing they've done is they've added touchscreen controls, and that covers everything from movement in the exploration to interactions to building. But I actually found it just a little bit more awkward, honestly, because while the placement becomes easier, the options like rotation and height, they become a bit more complex as it's buttons in the lower corner of the screen. I eventually got used to it, though it just will take a little time, and that's really the message I want to convey here. You're going to need a little bit of patience. Another problem that occurred here then is towards the end game, some of the builds become maybe a little too complex for their own good. A good example, there's a moment you need to build a fire escape. It's an absolute pain, not only because it has so many different heights to navigate, but also it faces some considerable slowdown. Basically, you're mixing controls which are already, let's say, a little more unusual with slowdown and lag, and yeah, that becomes a whole new level of frustration. Thankfully, these moments, they are few and far between, at least in the build sections, but I think for just maybe a few brief moments in game development, they maybe were a little too confident in this build system. I'm also sure the slowdown is exclusive to the Switch, honestly, but I'd still stand by this statement. It's just not quite necessary to take it this far. That's especially true as well when you start factoring in at this point, the game's asking you to use specific pieces. You've got to think about the physics of the object. You've got to reach specific on-screen heights represented by a transparent overlay. There's just maybe a little too much going on, and that might cause some to give up on the game. On slowdown then, I know it's LEGO, I don't think it's a huge deal, but you will notice a fluctuating frame rate in here consistently. It seems they were ambitious, and I appreciate that with an attempt at 60 frames per second. Sadly though, the game rarely reaches that and typically it floats around 45. That said, it's constantly moving, and I saw as high as the 50s and as low as 28. For me, it's LEGO. Frame rate of 60, I'm not gonna say it was really necessary, so maybe a patch in the future to simply lock it out at 30, because a locked frame rate will feel a lot better than this, which is fluctuating. A few last things I do want to talk about then. While it is LEGO, it dials up the challenge. It's never too difficult, but I will say for younger kids, may go a bit beyond their ability. I'd be tempted to say here younger teens and upwards for this game. Adults like me as well, you'll have fun and you'll still find some moments that push you as well. Any younger, you'll need to be by their side to assist. Closing out gameplay then, it's the usual LEGO affair, you know, think replayability here. You can revisit locations, they pack collectibles in the form of outfits, character designs. It's actually a pretty comprehensive character creator. There's going to be quests as well, such as collecting up ladybugs or animals in this world, and then there's even a few secret locations and items to uncover as well. Graphically then, I was impressed. I loved the look of the world, and I think the team did a good job here of separating it from the typical LEGO experience. Characters still pack a ton of charm though, the diorama locations are seriously impressive, and the effort that went in is absolutely clear. I was particularly impressed with the shadow work in the adventure. It adds a nice depth to the image. In build, it will be essential to understand where you are placing a piece. Complaints wise, I think the worlds can come off a little empty at times. There's not a constant flow of characters to meet, and sometimes while it's not really graphics, the camera, it is automatic, it can hide items that feels just a little too cheap. A bit more maybe free movement with the camera would have been appreciated, or maybe a better visual aid like seeing the world go transparent, just so you can at least have an idea of what you're walking into. Audio finally, and I was a little disappointed in this area. No voice acting, which makes sense, but I think it would have still added a ton of charm. Then I found the music likable at first, but I did get a little frustrated with it, as most of the locations only pack a theme or two, and you quickly start to hear that repetition. Also, even the sound effects, just a little light in that area. It was a game where I ended up lowering the audio and making my own soundtrack throughout. So the final verdict on LEGO Bricktales, it's the experience I've always wanted. It gives us the LEGO-like build environment, and I think in many ways it succeeds. The story's entertaining enough, even if it's a little bit crazy. There's some great locations, they get really creative with what you are building, and mostly, I found it was unlike any other game I've played in a long time. That is exactly what I wanted. That said though, it's not without its issues. There's a weak audio display, the gameplay ramps up that difficulty. Not really an issue, more a warning, but it definitely starts to compromise on how well the game performs. That's the frame rate, you know, it's aiming for 60, it's unlocked for some reason, but in a couple of puzzles it's just tanking. Like again, that fire escape is an absolute pain. Also, just in general, at the building, you'll always to some degree feel like you are battling against the control scheme. All of that said though, I had fun still. I got a good 8 hours of gameplay from it, and I'm far from wrapping up the collectibles, and it's another creative use of the license like the fantastic LEGO Builder's Journey before it. For me, it can't match the quality of that one. I've linked my review for that game below in fact, but today this one, it's still a good 7 out of 10. Just be prepared to exercise some patience. Will you be adding Bricktales to the library then, or holding onto that cash? Let me know in the comments down below. With that then, like, hit subscribe, join us here for reviews and deals daily, and I'll see you all on the next video. Thanks everyone.